Good Friday afternoon, everybody. We're minus 4% in the stock market, but it's been an otherwise bright sunny day. Okay, so we got a couple of news stories to cover this week. We got a lot of stupid news in the cycle this week, so I believe it was on Tuesday or Monday, I don't know when it was. We got this reveal for the new God of War game. And really, as I said on Twitter, they should have called it Wife of War. I don't know why they're calling it God of War. Kratos is the God of War. He's not having much of anything to do with the game, and they've completely lost the plot with the storytelling in this series. It's as the critic Yahtzee once said. If you're familiar with Yahtzee, he once said something to the effect of the God of War series really never needed to be extended upon that first game in the series. They kind of just jumped the shark with all of the things that came after. But the controversy is about people saying this game looks bad. I don't really want to go too deep into it. It's more gamer brain rot. It's been spoken about so many times before. No one is really upset, as far as I'm concerned, that you have a female character. What people are concerned about is that you have bad writing with the female character, that you have a contrivance, a plot contrivance. You're taking a character. There was a plot device, and now you're trying to elevate the plot device into the role of a main character, and it's just completely unnecessary. It's entirely unnecessary, and if you wanted to call it Wife of War, that would be more acceptable than to call it God of War. It has absolutely nothing to do with the God of War series, and it's not exactly cutting edge gameplay from the looks of it. They're not exactly innovating gameplay these days. So, not of any interest to me, but it's ridiculous to see people that will defend this type of mediocre game and also make the ridiculous claim that there are misogynistic gamers. I don't think there's anything more misogynistic than what I've said, which is to put a female character, to shoehorn a female character into a game, into a story, and also have her be poorly written. That is the most misogynistic thing you can do, because it reinforces all the negative stereotypes about women. If you're going to have women in storytelling, and newsflash, actually the vast majority of good stories, if you're paying attention, already have women in them. So it's not like women aren't featured in the storytelling. But as far as women being the protagonists of storytelling, well, that's fewer and far between. Why? Because the male-dominated society and the dominant characteristics of society are typically male oriented traits. Most gamers are male, like an overwhelming percentage of gamers are male. And the overwhelming percentage of storytellers are men. So, of course, that's why you're going to have the vast majority of stories based on men, and other obvious reasons. Men are the ones that go on adventures and have the most interesting stories to tell. It's just the way it is. But there's nothing misogynistic about women not having starring roles in every piece of media. But the growing number of women that are becoming the protagonists in video games, it's not really for any good reason. It's not organic. It's clearly not organic. And what's funny is the actual few number of games that have very strong female characters in them at the role of the protagonist, such as Bayonetta. The Nier series has them. Um, Lara Croft back in the day, nobody was against Lara Croft being in a game because she was cool. And the storytelling wasn't anything deeper than God of War's at all. So there's no reason for people to think that God of War is any deeper than the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is also ridiculous that they're even trying to make it into some sort of extended universe. I've said this before, extending these universes, it's not out of necessity or creativity, and it's not poorly, it is poorly thought out. It's not exactly meticulously planned and thought out and some creative mastermind behind this. They're just trying to fucking extend the fucking life cycle of the series and try to money grab with that instead of coming up with a new IP, which at least look at something like Capcom, how they're making new IPs and doing a great job with those. So if anybody tells you that gamers are being misogynistic because they see what the very creator of God of War, David Jaffe, said was like Forspoken 2, pretty much said everything that I was saying when I was watching it live. It looked like it was Forspoken 2. Perhaps it won't be as bad of a game, but I think it's absolutely just as unnecessary as a Forspoken was. And although unlike Forspoken, which led to the closure, I believe, of the studio that designed that game, not the publisher, but the studio, because this game, again, they're calling it God of War because of the protection of the intellectual property. If they were calling it something else, then nobody would buy the game. I think it's quite obvious. Which goes to show you that gamers are brain rot, because they're not looking to buy this game based on what they saw, and if they are, then they clearly they clearly don't really understand what good games are, because similar to what they showed off in the Wolverine gameplay, all they're showing is like the most one-dimensional version of what Ninja Gaiden already is. Ninja Gaiden has 10 times the brutality and 100 times of the actual combat. Most of what you saw in Wolverine was just a cutscene, just like most of what you saw in God of War. Laufey was just a cutscene. So there's nothing groundbreaking that they're doing at Sony anymore. Sony's pathetic. But don't ever be gaslit into thinking this is an issue of misogyny or men don't want to play as women. These same people that are white knighting for this game, where the fuck were you when Bayonetta came out? Bayonetta is one of my favorite games of all time. There's so many other games, I can't think of all of them off the top of my head, but there are plenty of female characters, maybe not protagonists, but there are plenty of playable female characters across games. And a lot of times it's just a change of skin almost. So I guess, for the argument of, I think you could go almost both ways with it, but something like Bayonetta, as I said in my Bayonetta review many years ago, she's much more than just a female skin of Dante. She's more than just a female skin of the legendary Devil Hunter, because the characteristics of her character are markedly feminine. She isn't trying to be cringe or a masculine version of herself, something like what they were doing with the Last of Us 2 protagonists, which were both women and horrible examples. Downright terrible characterization of women in that game. And it's ironic that someone like Neil Druckmann took over from Amy Hennig, who was a female director and writer in the game space, writing predominantly male characters and male-centric storylines, showing that there's no need for the sexist mentality at all, that we need to have some kind of forced representation of women in games. But Neil Druckmann came along and, by his own words and his own philosophy, thought that he should be putting more female protagonists at the center of gaming, in his words, to have a good representation for his daughter at the time. This was back in like 2014. You can look up the symposium that he gave when he was talking about all this nonsense. The guy's brain rotted, and the people that are making games now in America, they're of a certain political persuasion and they're just completely demented. They don't know anything about good storytelling, characters, or even what a woman is. These are the same people that will probably tell you that a man with a penis qualifies as a woman. So we don't need to listen to these types of people. They're neither gamers of any measurable variety. To no real extent are these people gamers. They're unserious. They weren't there when Bayonetta came out. These are some of the same people that said Stellar Blade was Gooner bait, which I think it is, but I defend the right for there to be Gooner bait. There's the same people that thought that Eve's portrayal was a little bit sexist in that game, but now they think that an uglified version, not to say that the character is that ugly, but there have been uglified versions of women at Sony. And Sony games, look at what they did to Mary Jane in Spider-Man 2. So this nonsense of people just don't want to play as a woman. No, people just want to play as interesting characters and interesting stories to the extent that there is storytelling in a game. Give me 99% of a game and maybe 1% of cutscenes, which is not the ratio that they're going for. So that's part of the problem. So many good examples of women in storytelling that exist, and even women protagonists, even in the realm of video games. So it's a ridiculous and non-existent issue that people are coming up with just to engagement farm, but it is actually very stupid because there's a real intelligent conversation to be had about how to write characters in general, and you don't just, like, for the purpose of a soulless husk of a character, you can go to character creator and make a female or male character or alien or what have you. But if you're going to have a narrative surrounding it, well, then you need to have the sensibility of telling a story about a woman as you would as for a man or a child or a dog or what have you. And I don't think these people understand any of the aspects of writing, and they don't care. They just want to sell some garbage to the masses and hope that they eat it up because it has the God of War IP. But I don't have much else to say. It's a very stupid controversy. There is a real intelligent conversation to be had about it, but it's not with the people that are making these surface level arguments. It's very stupid. It's both simpler and more complex than they're making it out to be. It's as simple as, yeah, you can have a female character, but don't make her say stupid things. Don't make her some girl boss. Make her like Bayonetta, where she's not trying to compete with men. She's just unapologetically, unabashedly feminine and the true sense, okay? And she isn't some piece of meat that's overly sexualized. She's certainly sexualized, but the joke is not at her expense, if you understand. And she's a totally badass and believable character within her storyline, and that's how you write a female character in a game. And video games are not to be taken too seriously. They should not be taking themselves too seriously. So it's the self-serious tone and the monotonous gameplay and all that combined that makes the game look stupid, but nothing to do with sexism in the manner of which they speak, that men don't want to play as women is stupid.